some questions in the audience, so if you have a good question, and you think it might lead to a story, how are we doing on time, by the way? 10 after 5, okay, all right. All right, Alicia, are you here? Tight, and like
Alicia is on her way.
She's on her way. Why don't we take a first question from the audience? This gentleman with the hand up first. Okay, go ahead. The biggest D-I-C-K? You want me to go negative? No, I'm not going to talk about Al Snow that way. Man, I got along with just about everybody to the point where when WWE was doing their round table with a subject specifically called Heat Seekers, this is before Paul Heyman came back to the company, I didn't have anything to say about Paul Heyman or Buff Bagwell. So I got along with almost everybody. The only thing, I just didn't like people who were dangerous or who didn't want to work hard, you know? You are really Mr. Negative, aren't you? Right. Brock's in Toronto now, right? Yeah, I'm going to play it safe and not say anything bad about Brock Lesnar.
Hey, Mick.
There you are.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa.
How
you
are
want to
you?
go around and be a roving reporter?
Absolutely.
And ask some questions? I still haven't used up that F-bomb yet, right? I was thinking about using it on that guy. Tone of negativity he's bringing here. Okay, so we want a cross-section one. When I say cross-section, Alicia, I mean people wearing my shirts, okay?
On it.
All right, now we want some hardcore fans, some casual fans. I know we have people who travel here from around the world. Give me a raise of hands if you're outside of North America. Yeah. All right, yeah, okay. See if they have some questions.
All right. Let's go over here. What's your name and your question? My name's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
In recent years, you hear a lot.
Where are you from?
I'm from Sydney, Australia.
Whoa! I did shows in Sydney last year.
I know, and I missed them. They all sold out.
Okay,
And it
take
was
that.
actually, and where the shows were actually near my house, so I had to come all the way to Toronto to sacrifice.
And you think it's been worth it so far?
Yeah, so far so good.
Where I put absolutely this much preparation? Okay, go ahead, what's the question?
So, in recent years, you hear a lot about WrestleMania moments.
Yes.
Do you have a particular WrestleMania moment from your career?
You know what, I'm lucky that I do, because when I retired from wrestling for good the first time, in 2000, I didn't have a great wrestling. I had a couple of pretty good matches, but nothing magical. And then as Shawn Michaels started calling himself Mr. WrestleMania, and WrestleMania grew like to where it went from arenas to stadiums, right? They started talking about WrestleMania moments, and I didn't actually have one. And so when I had a chance to come back and face Edge in 2006, at the time, I thought he was the best all-around performer in the business. As far as wrestling, persona, like, he invested emotionally into everything he did, no matter how ridiculous. You're like, are you coming back to see Dolph? How many of you are coming to see Dolph? No, we love Dolph, right? But did you ever get the sense that he was really romantically linked to Vicky Guerrero? Not in the way you believe that Edge was linked. That Edge would literally do anything get the upper hand, right? Like Edge, they just put his utmost into everything. And I told him, you know, Terry Funk used to refer to it as borderlining, which is you say things that borderline, you know, the truth. The emotions are vested in honesty so that the reactions are going to be honest. Like that's when the best stuff comes out. And I said, call me out on the fact I never had that real WrestleMania moment, and then put an enormous amount of pressure for me to come through. And I remember that match, like Lita, there was one spot where Lita jumped on my back, right? So we couldn't do anything physically, that would be wrong. But I was like, well, what if I clothesline Edge over the top rope, and and Lita just happens to be on my back, right? Like I told her, like, you're just gonna have to take your own bump. Are you cool with that? And sure enough, she did. I mean, I went over as fast as I could, and then she just, you know, just dropped off at a certain point. It was a thing of beauty. Like everything was going well. I went to light up that table. I had the lighter fluid, right? Because Edge was going to spear me through the table. Lita gave me the low blow, and here I am. You know, I'm getting ready for it. Edge comes, hits with a spear. Man, we went through that table that was on fire, and then boom, like just the impact knocked the flame out, right? But it was so the next day, like I had tape up on I got some hairy forearms, right? Everything from here on up was intact. Everything else burned completely off by the heat of that flame. And remember when I talked about that odd potpourri in that hotel in Detroit? Well, this was like an odd potpourri too, like my own burnt hair, charred flesh, and blood. But even as referee Earl Hebner was making the 3 count, I felt this giant weight being lifted off my shoulder because I'd had that magic WrestleMania moment. So just in the interest of safety, I want you guys to know that we had like 6 fire marshals from the city of Chicago stationed strategically. And even though we did not go up in flames, they still put us out with the fire extinguisher. You can probably see that. The naked eye can see that. What you can't see, but is equally as impressive and touching, unless you really look. And sometimes you don't really know who your friends are in wrestling. And I found out that night. If you look really closely at it, frame by frame, you can see Jake the Snake Roberts in the audience. Zipper down. Molson Golden in his hand. Proving that one person out there really would piss on me if I was on fire. Thank you very much for that question.
Alright, Mick, next up we have Chris from Nova Scotia.
All right.
Not just any part of Nova Scotia. She was from Sydney, Australia. I'm from Sydney, Nova Scotia.
All right.
I am from Cape Breton.
Very nice.
And that was your last tour in Canada.
Yeah, man. I went all around. I hit 17. We did 20 cities in the U.S., 17 in Canada, and somehow didn't land here. Right here in Toronto, Ontario.
And I saw you in the camper in Oshawa, but we'll talk about that later.
What's that?
Well, I saw you in the camper in Oshawa. I gave your daughter a hat.
Hey, don't check my daughter.
A giant Canadian hat. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. Damn true.
That's right. We did have a camper. Yeah, man. What a piece of crap that was, right? Did you see it? But we had a great time driving down the road.
I was there.
Yeah, you were there?
Yeah. But that's not why I bring this up. I want to talk about Terry Funk. And you know, Terry Funk, who, by the way, let's talk about Harley Race, who won the NWA World title in Maple Leaf Gardens from Terry Funk in 1977.
Oh, boy, impressive.
And that was impressive for Terry Funk. He was the NWA champion. Did he ever talk to you about going from the transition of being the NWA champion and going into hardcore, like you had your match at Japan?
Yeah. Well, Terry, I think at age 42, he just, you know, he returned to WCW. He returned, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat had this amazing series of 3 matches, maybe the best 3-match series I've ever seen. And because they'd gone to a 1-hour time limit draw in New Orleans, the final match would have judges at ringside. And Terry Funk, and that's Funk with an N, so we're still at 0 on the F-bomb scale, right? He was one of the judges, and after Ric Flair won an amazing match, he came out all bashful, and he goes, you know, Rick, I'd just like to be the very first one to challenge you for that WCW World Heavyweight Championship, all humble, right? And then Rick told him like there was like a top 10 list, and Terry had to prove himself. No one could make you believe, could make you suspend disbelief more quickly than Terry Funk, and that's why I think Terry is the greatest there's ever been, because he would strike fear. I'll give you an example. He's 74 now, he's 20 years older than me. Just 2 years ago, he was a manager for an independent wrestler named Man Scout, grown Boy Scout, great heel character, right, for the Indies. Terry was his manager. And I see him come out, and maybe 10% of the audience there at the indie shows knows who Terry Funk is, right? 5 minutes later, they might still not know who he was, but they knew he was crazy and they knew he was dangerous. And I see that look in his eye, and I said to the ring announcer, you better run. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you better run. He goes, why? I said, I'm telling you, you better run. He goes, he's not allowed to hit me. I said, you better run. And Terry got in the ring, and he punched the guy right in the head. And afterwards, the guy's there with an ice pack, and he said, I can't believe he did that to me. I looked at him, I said, what part of the words, you better run? Don't you understand? Because he would just snap, like it was like an insult to him that one person out there might not believe in what he did. I remember when I was a fan, when I was growing up, I was like, there was this common thing, especially if you watch wrestling with your friends who just came back to school and talked about what you'd seen, and you would preface it by going, no, I know most of that stuff is, and you go, but that was real. That was real. And Terry did that better than anybody. I mean, I tried to do it largely by making every move I did look as painful as possible. And the secret there to making every move look as painful as possible is I made all those moves as painful as possible. So that if I hurt myself bad enough, you might think I hurt myself a little bit. And that's the truth. And largely I thought, that move looks good in the ring. Imagine what it looked like outside in that concrete. So now one of the toughest challenges I face is to stand on any type of elevated platform and not think about it as a place to drop an elbow off of. And even with my limited physical ability, with a two-step approach, I'd be all over you, sir. I can get surprising distance when I needed to. But Terry, yeah, he just came unglued and he put everything he had into every match he had. And Terry Funk, for those who don't know, is largely to either blame or gets the credit for what transpired in my cell match. Because when I came back, when I went to WWE Studios in Stamford, we had a house show, an untelevised live show in Hartford, Connecticut. And so we stopped by Stamford, and I watched the first ever Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, which I believe to this day is still the best cell match there's ever been. And I went, okay, all right, okay, this is my opinion. Let me tell you, I'm going to follow this up with a little story that just happened a couple weeks ago. That was surreal, okay? But Terry looked at it, and they had this amazing match, right? You know, all this athletic stuff on top of the cell and around him, and just an unbelievable match. And I looked at Terry and said, well, what the hell am I going to do? I'm a guy who maxed out with 4 pull-ups in 6th grade gym class, right? Before I got bottom heavy. Like, I wasn't meant to hang off things, right? And Terry just said, on cactus, I have no idea. And then he started laughing. And, yeah, you know what you ought to do? I said, what? He goes, you ought to start the match on top of the cell. And then have him throw you off the top of the cell. And he kept laughing. And I stopped laughing. I looked at him and said, I think I can do that. So without Terry Funk, there was no leap off the cell. There was no magic moment people recall 21 years later. Oh, this little story I wanted to tell is I'm in a hotel room in Jacksonville, Florida, about 2 weeks ago. And I check in, thermostat says 72 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't know what that is, Celsius. I've been around long enough, I've been in enough hotel rooms where that's not 72 degrees, like it's hot. I was persuaded, you know the story, right? I only told it once, right? Don't spoil it for anyone. I call, hey, can you guys come up? I don't yell, I said, can you guys come up? Problem with the air conditioning unit. The guy comes up, he goes, oh, this isn't working, it'll take some time. Here, I'll just bring you to another room. And as we're walking in the hallway, getting on the elevator, he notices I'm wearing a Stephanie McMahon shirt. And he goes, oh, Stephanie McMahon, I can't stand her. And I said, maybe she's just doing a good job with her role. He goes, I don't know, ever since she married Triple H, WWE's gone downhill. And I'm looking at him like, trying to figure him out. He goes, you know who I like? I said, who? He goes, Mick Foley. I swear to you, I go, I think he's still joking around. I said, that guy is so overrated. At which point he starts getting angry at me for criticizing myself And he goes, did you see that match you had with Undertaker in the cell? I said, when he was the kind man? He goes, no, when he was mankind. I said, yeah, and I thought that match was really overrated. He goes, overrated? He says he can't even put on his pants anymore. He has to have his wife put his shoes on for him. And as we're walking, I said, dude, and he turns around and I go, you know I'm him, right? And he literally reacts as if he's been hit with a shotgun blast. He recoils, he falls down, he takes a bump in the hallway, and he stands there in shock. Couldn't believe that I was the guy that he's putting over so strong. But I'm so glad he didn't agree with me. I go, that guy's so overrated. And I come to think of it, I guess he is. That just happened a couple weeks ago. All right, another question? Alicia, where are you?
Hello.
Way back there.
Way back here, we have Stuart from Milton, Ontario.
All right.
Hey Mick, I just wanted to say, I know that you say you're not the best athlete per se, but one of the biggest things is you're a sports entertainer, and you're one of the best sports entertainers to ever do it, and thank you for all the bumps and bruises and all the times you jumped off things, and there was no one quite like you that did it. And before I get to my question, I just wanted to put you over real quick and say
I
how
don't
much
think there's any need for questions. Putting me over is strong enough.
But the 24/7 title, obviously you introduced it, and it wouldn't be a Foley talk session if we didn't talk about it. But what are your thoughts on where it's at now, and where would you like to see it go going forward?
Our truth is expected in this building at any minute. Like, I knew we were baiting and switching because we're building people up to believe it was the hardcore title. But it can't be the hardcore title. You can't do the things we did to each other in 2000 and 2001, right? With the knowledge we have about what goes into head injuries. But, I mean, people were with it, right? Until in the moment I pulled that title, championship title, I could feel all the oxygen leave the room. Like, oh, they can't stand this title. It wasn't so much that it was ugly, which it is. But you're talking about it replacing a piece of leather with some jagged pieces of metal glued to it, right? The hardcore title technically was the ugliest title of all time, but it was coveted, and that's what made it beautiful. And look, you know, I'm supposed to be the thrifty guy, but I rent from National, so I can rent off the aisle, right? So on that day in question, I had a nice Cadillac. So even after I was done announcing the title, they asked me if I could stick around because they wanted to use my rental car for a segment. And I had no idea until I watched it that night. I went back, I watched the show, and R-Truth has Bobby Roode hide in the trunk while that mass of people runs by. And he goes, okay, man, go ahead and sit in the car. And when he opens up the car, there's a referee in the front seat. And immediately I said, oh, this is what I love about wrestling. And my line became, if you say you don't like it, you're not lying to me because I know better. You're lying to yourselves. And from a purist standpoint, okay, maybe it's not Lou Says and Carl Gotch doing an hour Broadway. But man, it's fun, and like the video numbers back that up, right? It is fun. Like, when I saw it, first of all, Drake Maverick, this is the truth, okay? He got married for real, wearing the title belt. And then when he walked up the aisle, the camera panned out, and you can see Drake's expression, and you're wondering, oh, why is he doing that? And then you see the referee's shoulders, and he's like, my God, he's gonna lose the title in the aisle at his wedding, and that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, I love it. I think it's fun. And when I came out on Raw a few weeks ago, I did everything I could to make people think that I was going to win that title and we'd have a feel-good moment. And then emotionally, we all got the rug pulled out from underneath us, and something very different happened. But it was, I like the baseline. You want to go from a high to a low as quickly as possible, so that's what I try to do with that title. But I like it. I think it's fun, and I think it adds a little spark to every episode. Okay? Thank you. Oh, and the praise you were giving me. Oh yeah, what I thought about was like, so I couldn't jump high, so I learned to jump from high places. And some of you remember the movie Beyond the Mat, right? Barry Blaustein was the name of the director, and every once in a while he'd call me up and ask me for a favor, like a Hollywood favor. And he goes, I get a message from him, he goes, yeah, listen man, I hate to ask you this, but I'm working for this guy on a movie, his son's a really big fan. Would it be a problem if you go in and meet him? And his name's Brian Grazer. And I called up Barry Blaustein and said, you want me to meet Brian Grazer's kids? You know who Brian Grazer is? He's like the most powerful man in Hollywood, right? The most. So I get there, I go to Imagine Entertainment, I said, hi, I'm Mick Foley, here's Mr. Good. Oh, they're expecting me. They put me up in that elevator, I go right up to the top, I'm looking out all over Hollywood. You didn't go in the photo, did you? Okay. And his kid is there, he goes, I've got a question. And he goes, did it hurt? Which I've heard 10,000 times, right? It didn't hurt when the Undertaker threw you off the cell. But he doesn't go with that. He said, did it hurt when the Big Show threw you off the stage into the grave? Does anyone recall that segment of film? And I said to him, I said, you know what? I was just so happy that I made it on one short hop. I didn't feel a thing. And you look at it, it's like a hole in one. Big Show just takes me, he throws me off that thing, and I'm airborne, you know? I don't know for how long, for how many feet, and I hit that grass, and I was in the cell, I was in the hole, right? And all I could think of is that had to have looked good, right? I'm relishing it because I can hear people, ooh, all that stuff. Before the days of the holy SHIT chant, or this is awesome, but I knew that it was awesome, right? And so when Big Show came to get me, boom, there I was, with the sock in his mouth. And what I love about it is there's a photo of me in a dress shirt and a dark brown leather mask with a sock on my hand, putting into the mouth of a 7-foot giant wearing a blue Speedo. And if you're a wrestling fan, there is no explanation necessary. It is what it is. You can't explain that to someone who doesn't watch it. Why is that man in the grave? Why is he wearing a sock? Why is he putting in that mouth of that big man wearing curiously small chunks on that huge body? It's wrestling. We can do whatever we want, and it is whatever we want it to be. Okay, another question?
Over here, Mick.
Okay.
We got one from John from Toronto.
Are you guys heading to the show?
We're on NXT to Seattle Bull tonight, Mick.
All right. Baby.
My question is, with so many, for example, podcasts today, shows like this, podcasts like Conrad Thompson, can you talk a little bit about topics, for example, that you don't think would be appropriate to discuss in that format or in this format or similar formats? Not stories, but topics that just should stay hidden, if you will.
I don't know. Give me an example of something you think should stay hidden.
Bruce Pritchard doesn't like to talk about money, right? I mean, obviously finances, what guys paid, etc.
Right.
That seems offside and fair enough. I mean, does anything come to your mind that you don't want to pull the curtain back on that? It just doesn't seem
And I talked
appropriate.
to one of the wrestling journalists. He asked for advice. I said, don't use real names. Because we don't. And most of the time, we don't even know people's real names. So I've been on the road with people I've known 10 years or more. And then I hear a name like at the airport, and they go up to get their ticket, and I go, is that your name? So we don't use real names, and a lot of fans do. And they think like, all right, we're in a show that you're in. It's the same thing with the handshake. It used to be you give a loose handshake to show that you were in the business. But now it's kind of come around to a different era where the guys doing that are not smart because no one does it anymore. So if I see a well-meaning extra, they come at me with the 2-finger handshake. Because the old way in the carnival era was if somebody said, hey, I'm in the business, yeah, put it there, kid. And you want to give the firmest handshake possible to impress that wrestler. And so by design, the wrestler handshakes are very light. It was a secretive handshake. But as time evolved, no one does that anymore. And so I would say, like, some guy, hey, Mr. Foley, big fan, and give me these 2 fingers. I go, don't you ever let the Undertaker catch you giving that handshake. You'll be out of here. You know, because that says, I don't know who's still teaching that, but those are some things. The only thing is when people try to be too smart for their own good and try to talk in a way that we would never talk. but I think every subject is open. I mean, I went to one of Jim Ross's shows about 4 or 5 years ago, and you would think we have the exact same audience, but we don't, because I maybe had as many like smart alecky questions in the last 5 years as Jim got that night. You know, and there were some things that I heard, I wouldn't answer. Like, no, that's stupid, it's disrespectful, you're trying to get over with this crowd. But Jim would answer them all, you know. But yeah, that would be my thing. And I've had the chance to do the podcast with Conrad. You have to do it with Conrad, right? He's the only co-host, you got a monopoly on it, right? But yeah, I don't listen to podcasts, so I don't want to do something that I'm not emotionally invested in. You know, and this is literally, this was me writing down 4 or 5 ideas and then forgetting 2 or 3 of them when I was up here. I still think it went okay, right? Yeah, there you go. Okay. I'll find a little list to have backstage, but I got here at 3:20. And we started the meet and greet like 5 minutes later. And so some of you guys, I'm conscious of the time, we'll wrap up in a few minutes. You guys can get to the NXT show, have a great time, and enjoy that. When do they start tomorrow? Like 10 a.m.? It's tough. One thing I talked about in my last show was the fact that you couldn't script magic, you know? It's either there or it's not. And I've been lucky that it's been in the air a few times, like that night in Stamford when Jim Ross was interviewing Mankind, and that night in Pittsburgh at the Hell in a Cell. But you can't predict it, you know? And by the time the main event goes on, it's awfully tough to have a great classic match because the audience is that intangible. And after 7 hours, they're largely gone, you know? So I would love to be on, if I was on, I'd like to be on early in that show. But good for you guys if you stick around to the very end. That's hardcore. Yes, sir. Sorry, Alicia.
Brian from Toronto. I was the journalist that asked for advice earlier.
So, yes, that was you.
That was me.
So you were from Toronto?
Yes.
So it only took you 2 hours to get here?
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome to Ireland. WrestleMania 22 and your match with Edge was brought up earlier.
Yeah.
And there's a story in your book, Countdown to Lockdown, that I wanted to ask you about.
Uh-oh. Is it okay for the children?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, all right,
yeah. You bring up Tori Amos as
Yes.
your artist that you listen to get jacked up before a match.
Yes, sometimes, yes.
And
Thank you for the Tory fans. Thank you.
And you tell a story in that book about a high-profile wrestler walking in while you were getting psyched up for that match and being intimidated by you. And you said in the book that if anybody who read it ever came and asked you about it, maybe we can find out who it is. So I'd like to see if I can get that piece.
I'll make that the last question. I'll push it off. How much more time do we have for questions, Alicia? Okay, so one more and then I'll come to that question, all right? Oh man, we got so many hands up though.
You can choose, Mick.
Oh, man.
Hands up to anybody who wants to ask a
Hands
question.
Are they gonna play me off here? That guy over there with the hat. There you go.
I see you.
All
I'm on
right.
my way. Gonna make it. Hello.
Hello, I'm Brad from Toronto. I wanted to know, what is the scariest moment for you in your entire wrestling career?
The thing with Bray Wyatt looked pretty scary, right? When I got home, I felt like I just starred in a monster movie, right? I thought I'll say tomorrow that was the scariest moment. Because I'm going to be, I reached out to WWE and I was like, hey, as long as I'm going to be here, do you want me to do the pre-show? So they said, yeah. So I'm going to pick up a little extra payday. And I stopped by a store thinking I would need a sports coat, jacket, and a tie, which would have sent me back a couple $100 US, which is what, about $40 Canadian? But what is going on with this transfer rate, man? And instead I walked out of there with an $8 flannel shirt and a $4 black t-shirt. Saved a lot of money on that exchange. And so I'm looking forward to do that. I'm trying to think, you know, the most terrified that I was on top of that cell, honestly. And I know I covered this in the 20 Years of Hell special, but Mr. McMahon, when he asked me if I'd been up on top of that cell and I said yes, that honestly was the biggest lie I ever told in my life. If I'd been up on top of that cell in the afternoon like I assured him I wouldn't have been up there that night. Because when I got up there, like even though I've been good so far, I haven't dropped a single F-bomb, right? Turns out I think in swear words. So when I was up there and I looked over the top, the only thing I could think of was, you gotta be effing kidding me. Because everything I said in my head was an F-bomb. There's no effing way, and so as soon as his music hit, I swear to you, all I could think of was, how do I climb down without ruining my career? If I could have thought away, by God, I would have done it. I couldn't, so I didn't, and the rest is history. That was the most terrified I've ever been. So, like, people ask me what I think about Shane McMahon coming off the top of the cell. Like, the big difference is, you can say that what I did was brave, which is action in the face of fear, but Shane has no fear. So he's fearless, whereas I'm brave, okay? So, but yeah, just getting through that is probably the most rugged thing I've ever done in my life. Okay, final question. I said I will reveal who the well-known wrestler was, because the wrestler came up and told me they actually make these like jerry-rigged tents backstage because there's so much stuff going on, star dressing rooms, things like that. So like dressing rooms, like pop-up dressing rooms. And I was listening to the Tori Amos song, you know, and I was like rocking back and forth, and this guy, you know, says, geez, I saw the state of mind you were entering in, you know. I got the hell out of there, and I haven't used the F-bomb yet, right? And so I'm going to use it now, that's why I saved it. He said he was frightened. It's not the F-bomb we're thinking of. That wrestler's name was Kane. 6'8", 300 pounds, frightened. And he said, what the hell were you listening to anyway? I handed him my beaten, battered Sony yellow Walkman that my kids had outright refused as a Christmas gift. A year earlier, said like, no, we gotta go to school. I can't be seen with that. And I put it on Kane's head, and he listened to like the first 30 seconds of Tori Amos singing Winter. You know the word I like? When you gonna make up your mind, when you gonna love this time, when you gonna make up your mind, 'cause things are changing so fast. And then Kate took off the headphones, handed them back to me, looked me right in the eye and said, remind me not to fuck with you.